Everyone, this is Jay High from Captain Keyboard, and I wanted to do a kind of different video than what I've been doing more recently. I wanted to go kind of in like my TO brain a little bit. I've been doing a lot of rankings, a lot of player profiles, stuff like that, but I kind of want to have a more, I don't know, just like a little bit more of a broad topic across Smash as a whole and kind of how we organize things. And so I think that's when I had talked about predictions for who would get the full house spot. I had mentioned that Slug seemed to have a good bracket, which ended up being pretty true. But he still did good on his own right. It wasn't free. But that was part of like, I think Slug has a decent matchup here, and we could see Slug going pretty far. I was also wrong about Moff being the best ICs because right now Slug is a pretty big lead. We'll have to see how it goes, but yeah. So, and I think that this topic also came up for Genesis, talking about collusion. And if you want to look at the definition of collusion, secret, often illegal agreement between parties to limit open competition, defraud third parties, or gain an unfair market advantage. I would not say that, like, it's not cheating. Like, a TO doesn't necessarily gain from this. There is not, I could see, like, if a company is seeding the brackets, they have a player in the bracket, or like friends or something like that, I could see there being kind of self-interest there, but I would not say it's collusion. Now, when you look at bracket rigging, this is what comes up. Not quite what I was looking for, but like it's kind of like fixing certain things, deciding what you want to happen in the bracket. Some examples are, Mango had a really bad bracket at a pound way back in the day, to where people were like actively trying to seed him hard matchups when they were able to. You have other examples of Mango and HBox playing in quarters, where it was like, what in the world? Like they're both top 3 seeds. Why is this happening? And at Genesis, we had this with Rat Monster being in Zane's path pretty frequently after their online and then offline first to 5 sets, first to 5s, and other examples. I saw this one thing a while ago. This was in 2017, back when there's a little bit more mainstream coverage about Mewtwo King having a difficult bracket at Shine, with bracket manipulation, about having an Ice Climber filled bracket, which I think that was the Shine that had like 10 Ice Climbers in top 64. I remember there was one Shine in the teens somewhere that had happened, and so yeah, there's a lot of Ice Climbers that's going to happen. But I think it kind of raises a larger point of the decision making of seeders. That's not always the TO responsibility. Sometimes they kind of outsource, and they have kind of these melee stats, kind of these people that are a little bit more in the know about these kinds of things. It has a pretty cool thing. I think Ambi is quoted here about some stuff. It's an interesting read, but not gonna just repeat all that. I think it is very interesting based on, like, was this seeded for Slug to have a good chance at going far? Slug had an amazing 2022 with multiple really good wins, and Slug is generally an exciting player. However, Slug is like Pennsylvania. This is in Chicago, Illinois. I don't think there's any kind of regional advantage here that Slug benefited from. If we look at kind of Slug's history here, sometimes he's given a good bracket, sometimes he's given a bad bracket. Like, sometimes, okay, it's pretty favorable. Like, it seems like he's really good at against Spaceys. He's good against Marth. Good against Sheik, obviously. Those seem to be his strongest matchups, and he got a lot of those in this path. And so then also at LSI, had some more of them again. Also, got left in here at main stage, but other ones didn't go so hot. Don't Park got 49th. Had to play, a Peach and a Puff. Some of Ice Climber's hardest matchups. Then lost pretty early here. Lost to Luigi. Luigi has a decent matchup against Ice Climbers. Then Slug's not very good in the Ditto. It seems like, for whatever reason. And then here, you saw Dark Gen X took a set here at Nouns Bowl. Lost to Magi. That's not necessarily a bad draw, but it did have the Peach right before. What about here? Actually lost to Kador in here, but then lost to Moff in the Ditto again. But then Creed had a pretty good matchup here. A lot of Spaceys, Sheik, and then a bunch of Spaceys. So it's like sometimes he gets good brackets, sometimes he gets bad brackets. Got 13th here, losing to a Puff, and then a Luigi. Not some of his better matchups. Collision, not too hot. Ran into a Peach early. And then E-Poodle, pretty decent matchup, I believe. And then here, did pretty well. Had a ton of Spaceys, which those are kind of the top seeds anyway. No Johns, not too great. Lost to someone who plays him a lot. And Crudo actually took a set, so sometimes it's not always about a matchup. Here, Smash Valley, beat Crudo twice, lost to Rap M twice. That happens. Here, was able to get past a Peach in his path, past a Puff. And then here, Sheik, and then winner of Sheik Marth, and Spacey Falcon. This was a better bracket. Like, Slug does not always benefit. Sometimes he has tough brackets. And I think that Ice Climbers has more autonomy than just being a victim of your circumstance. I think characters like Sheik, characters like Ice Climbers, sometimes even Marth, seem to be like at the mercy of their bracket sometimes. Where it's like, oh, you're like a Fox. Oh, you're going to run into some matchup you're not familiar with. Like, all these things where it's like, oh, it's out of your hands. And I think it's like, if you think back to the when it was Zane, Cody, Amsa, Mango, and it seemed to be like some kind of cycle to where like, okay, like Mango would be Cody, Cody would be Amsa would beat Zane, and then Zane would beat Mango. Like, all these things that seem very consistent in the flow, like a rock paper scissors type of situation. And the current meta is there are certain matchups that are difficult, and I think that is something to where it plays in. And so some players are like, hey, this matchup is difficult for me. I don't feel like my seed is being accurately rewarded, and I get that. I think if we break down the seeds right here, like, I think people can maybe think that Jmook is the most screwed here by having the 2 seed overall, but having the 2 versus 15 matchup be against someone that he's never beaten and against a historically pretty difficult matchup for him. Jmook has taken a set off of Moth, I believe, was going more Zelda in that set than Sheik. But Jmook has historically kind of struggled with Ice Climbers. And so let's kind of look at Jmook. Jmook had a really good Genesis. Kind of was the last to get upset, pretty much. Wasn't necessarily beat Josh Man, beat Aklo, beat Wizrobe, beat Sunsei. Like, did good, but there weren't that, like, then 4 or 5 is pretty close anyway. Like, Jmook did his job. He didn't get upset. That was like the main thing, while other players were dropping down left and right. And so I think it's like, yeah, he didn't really get a hard bracket, but he was able to keep going and then stay consistent. Now, this is a much harder bracket. We have him losing the Slug, and then started doing all right. Won the Ditto here, but then lost to Josh Man, which he had just beaten. I think you could maybe argue, oh, why is Zane the first seed instead of Jmook? Well, I think Zane, his 17th is he lost to 2 good players. Obviously, Rap Monster is a little bit more of an unknown. But I think people assume that, okay, that's not Zane being bad, this Rap Monster being good. Maybe Zane is bad in the matchup. But and then losing to Cody for 17th, that's not a normal 17th. Like, that's not normal to have happen. So, like, them being the top 2 seeds playing so early, like, that's rare. And so I think there's enough to where it's like they want to have Zayn still be the 1 seed. They feel like there's not enough data to drop him down too far. I know some people, like weeklies, I've heard it said, to where, like, okay, just to make it easy, we're going to seed last week's results as, like, this week's seeding. And that's easy. It's, it kind of avoids responsibility and arguments and all that. I think it is kind of flawed because of bracket luck, and because, like, sometimes it feels like there's not always enough data to assume something. Because there are triangle matchups. I mean, like, even locally, sometimes even more locally, to where you have, like, your bracket demon, and if you keep running into them, you're not going to do well. If you don't run into them, you're going to do great. And sometimes that can affect your placing, affect your payout, affect your PR, like, all these things. And I think it is, like, having a somewhat balanced system is pretty fine. I think some people were disagreeing with Jmook being so high, but I mean, Jmook got second at Genesis, and Jmook was the 5th seed, so it's not like he was going to be that low anyway. And then HBox got 9th, but it wasn't as bad. Like, you would argue that Sunsei is probably not as bad of a loss compared to Zayn, and so it's like there's a lot of arguments you can make. I think overall a lot of the matches were fine, and if you're at a top level, you probably want to get like your get back. You want to be able to beat the person that has beaten you so many times. That's kind of like Zayn's mindset, where it's like, okay, I want to play Axe, I want to play Opsa, I want to play these players to where I know that I can beat them. Like, he is determined to. While some people, maybe if like an M2K, maybe if you're someone else, you might want to optimize your chance of doing well and avoid those difficult matchups. And so I think that's a challenge. I would probably say, like, I mean, if you look at it, like, you could say that maybe Slug goes above Preeminent, but, like, Preeminent's been doing fine. I think Preeminent's been a little more consistent than Slug. Slug's been doing good this year, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I like, you could make a few leaps here and there. There's also Ben, but if you put Slug in Ben's spot, you would argue a pretty difficult matchup, because he's historically done very difficult against HBox. It's pretty wild how 1 place difference can just mean all the difference. I mean, if Slug is here, he almost certainly doesn't beat HBox. Yeah, Nikki beat HBox at one time, but we just can assume that Slug's not as good in the matchup just from what we've seen. And so then, if Slug goes down where Gatsu was, you probably get top 8, and then maybe you play Joshman you probably play Joshman, because Jmook wouldn't be down here. And then maybe you could still make the spot, but assuming that Wizrobe has a similar run, that's very challenging. So Slug was very much able to benefit from it. I do get the point saying, like, Jmook wasn't rewarded for his merits because of the matchup. Because the number next to your tag is not necessarily that influential. It's the matchups that happen. Some people get, like, I remember people would argue about, I want to be the 2 seed instead of the 3 seed. I'm like, you're on the same side of bracket either way. It's like, it's the matchups that matter. But a lot of times in these kinds of things, there's a lot of cherry picking and confirmation bias, to where you're looking at one little thing, you have these memories. I remember, like, SDJ playing HBox at Gommel again because of that viral moment of HBox with the multiple screens popping off. They wanted the run back of that. Like there's certain things to where you may want to have a matchup happen because it's beneficial. I remember Leffen and Salem back in the day, and to where, like, a lot of TOs were wanting it to happen because of the craziness of that Christmas Eve of 2018 Christmas Eve, and then it happened at SmashCon 2019. That's right. I saw that set live. That was crazy. But it was so exciting and building up for a long time. It just didn't keep happening, or keep not happening, and to where sometimes it'd be potentially set up, and then one of them would lose early, one of them would EQ, whatever. And I think it's like, I don't think it's bad to seed for it to be possible for a fun matchup. because at the end of the day, every set is a coin flip. Like, here it could have just been that Aura beat Rap Monster and this never happened. Like, yeah, I think people would be like, okay, Rap Monster have a solid shot here. Has a little bit of Peach experience, probably more than Aura has Luigi experience. Been playing well against not just Spaceys, but also floatier matchups. And you could say that Rap Monster got a good draw here, but it could have just not happened. I mean, I guess Calm Masters in the Pacific Northwest, so maybe Aura did have experience. And like, okay, it could have been Smash probably got upset, lost to Jack Kenny. I was like, I didn't even hear this player. And so Slug technically got an easier, but also had to play a pretty good puff to get into top 64. So it's like, it depends on where you draw the line. And like, yeah, I think that you can look at this and say 2 and 15, and then the 7-10, Krudo and Ossify, both being pretty good matchups for Slug. Oh, it's rigged. Well, then the next one's H-Box. He didn't control Moki beating H-Box. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty much a coin flip. But you never know. I mean, Magi could have beaten Moki. Like, Ben has beaten H-Box before. Like, more so online. But, like, you don't know for sure. And so, yeah, when you look at it on paper, where 2 and 15 is supposed to happen, yeah, I can see that being, like, that's kind of unfair for Jmook. But at the end of the day, like, you want people to play different matchups. The last time Slug played Jmook was when? So, yeah, he's 3-0 on Jmook. The last time they played was fall of 2023. It had been like 3 years. So I think that having like, oh, Jmook is so unlucky. He hadn't played Slug for a long time. Like, yeah, there was Moff. Yeah, there was Nikki. But like this specific player, like styles make fights. And so I think it's like, it's not that unfair for Jmook. You could assume that like, okay, Slug hadn't been doing as well. Krudo had beaten him. Jmook had also beaten Moff the previous year. And so it's like, Jmook might prevail. So I think it's easy to be hindsight 2020 and say, oh, Slug lucked out in this easy bracket, got 2 Sheiks, and even if this Sheik didn't happen, it would have been a Mart that he's beaten before. Like, I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's like, that's not necessarily the same kind of seeding, like, coordination for excitement. I think that's like, you want Slug to go far. But I don't think they're necessarily invested in Slug going far. And I mean, Wizrobe got the spot anyway. So I think it's like, I wouldn't say this was necessarily colluded. I think that you could have maybe switched it around a little bit. But I mean, I don't think Moki necessarily deserves to be below Krudo. Like, Krudo did beat him, but like, Moki had a much better year last year. Was like top 5 of Krudo into the year in the top 15-ish area. So it's like, switching Krudo above Moki seems a little bit flippant. If you want to put Moki above Wizrobe, you could do that. But like, I mean, then that makes it really unfair for H-Box because he plays Wizrobe all the time. And like, Jmook had also just played some of these players. Jmook and Wizrobe had just played. So if you put Wizrobe at 7, then that makes it pretty unfair for Wizrobe because you just played him. And so there's all these reasons for what happened when. And I think it's like, this is very much a cherry-picked example. And I do think that maybe they could be a little bit more transparent, because sometimes there's a big question to where I think that matchups in platform fighters matter a ton. Other times they don't matter as much. Like fighting games, it can matter, but it's kind of less important because I feel like they're much more well-rounded of players. Well, platform fighters usually don't play that many characters. You could argue, oh, it's harder to learn them, whatever. But usually it ends up being like, matchups are very different. So just going a secondary is probably not going to be as good as playing your main in a bad matchup, unless you specifically spent a lot of hours doing it. While like, you can have like a pocket character much simpler, and just as long as you have the execution, you're aware of neutral, like in a traditional fighter, you might be able to do better in that. Or like, if it's a different kind of esport where it's like, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, like larger teams, you have more abilities to kind of make up for that. But like I think one-on-one platform fighters matchups are so important, and I think that it's really easy to get so in the weeds of that, to where it's like, oh, got my matchup, I'm done, and it's like, look, every set's a coin flip. Like, yeah, some coins are very weighted, but at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be that bad. Like, yeah, I think that some examples seem a little fishy, but there's a lot of times people, they will only look at their one circumstance and they'll complain and not give any solutions. And it's like, me being a TO, I've dealt with that a lot, to where these, some people, and I've been on the other side of it too. Remember, I got 33rd losing to two players that got top 12 because of bad seeding. And I was like, well, that sucks. That's not my fault. But like other times, like people get so fed up. It's like, oh, I played him 3 weeks ago. I'm like, bro, we're a 15-man local. Like you're gonna play people that you played a lot. And when you have these top players that, I mean, some of them like Salt and Aura play every week. You have players like Crudo and Wizzy and HBox play a ton. You might have Spark Windows and Pacific Northwest. You might have Kim and Slug both being Tri-State. Like you have these certain matchups that you want to avoid, but sometimes like when you have so many different things, it's like bad matchup, recently played, same region. Like you have all these different reasons to not seed someone, but then it's like you start to pigeonhole, and someone might benefit from that, and it's difficult to remain unbiased. And some people, it's like, some people can be real jerks about it, and then it's like, do you want to give in to them to avoid the controversy? Do you want to turn against them harder to not reward that behavior? I think you would want to kind of stay in the middle, but I mean, I've been there to where I had a guy who threatened to DQ because he was potentially going to play his roommate. Like, I think the roommate was the lower seed, but if he made one upset, he played his roommates who, I'm like, you haven't played all semester. It's like, well, I didn't come here just to play my roommate who has a good matchup against me. And so he threatened DQ. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll change it. Like, I kind of gave in there. And like, that's like a local scene with like people that, same 20 people. Like, I understand it's very challenging. And I understand like not wanting to make it too far out there to where you're having this harassment, because there's been some harassment in the community recently for a variety of reasons. So I understand kind of wanting to not be super upfront about all that. But I don't know. I don't think that this is collusion and rigging and like unfair. I do want to do more, because I did do a video about matchups I wanted to see. And a few of them did happen. Zane and Kim finally played. That was cool. But, I mean, that very easily could have not happened. Zamu got DQ'd here. And Zamu could have beat Kim, and then we could have seen Zane and Zamu. Like, there's different things that might happen. I mean, Josh Man doesn't do very good against Falcon sometimes, but it very could have well been Aklo. Or, Dial M could have beat Preeminent, and then Dial M beats Josh Man, and all this doesn't matter. Like, there's all these random things that can happen. And so it is so, so challenging to predict, like, to seed based off of predictions, because there's so many upsets that happen all the time. Like, Gatsu, the lower seed, beating a Sheik, like 3-0. Like, that's surprising. And there's these things that you can't always account for. And, like, I mean, there's different things where it's like, okay, you want to give a top player a run back, so they have them play against someone that they've lost to in the past, and it's like, okay, well, should you have them be avoided for longer? Like, there's a lot of different kind of logic you can have, and that's why I do like having non-double elimination, because like how it's set up in winners can be so important for how it plays out. Losers is hard to control just because there's so many more variables. But in winners, like how you set that up, I mean, people might get pissed because like, okay, my path to getting in the money in the fewest sets possible is way harder in this part than if it were in this part. And I do like having, a Swiss style or like round robin, like other things like that. But then it becomes like, would you rather have a bad matchup early to potentially avoid it for later bracket? or do you want to have it avoided and just hope you don't run into that? That's been something that I've had with like usually in like the upper part of Swiss pools. That also happened at Summit back in the day. I remember Summit 11, they had Nunn and Zane in the same bracket, or same round robin pool, and also Plup and Cody, them being on Panda, and then the other two being Golden Guardians. And I imagine that reason was to, hey, they have less of a chance of playing later on if they played now. And I think that could be true, but it also makes the risk, okay, they have a guaranteed time of playing, and they could also play later, so it could be double. And so I think it's like, there's a little bit of, you're more likely to run into a bad matchup the more matches you have. But yeah. And that's why I think it's like, it's not a bad thing to be able to control that. I mean, I'm wearing a Hornets hat right now. They're fresh off a win against the Suns. And now it's like, they've gone on a run ever since Brandon Miller came off an injury and everything started clicking. LaMelo Ball, Conklin Nipple, Musa Diabate, like all these players doing great. And now it's like these teams up here. It's like, I don't want to play the Celtics round one, I don't want to play the Hornets round one, and because they're like a scary 8 seed right now. And you don't see teams losing on purpose to get out of that. Because also there's the play-in, so 7 and 8 is not even guaranteed. But like I saw Knicks guys, it's like, hey, I'd be glad to be down at 3 instead of being up at 1 because I would rather play the Raptors or 76ers than the Hornets. And that is something to where it is ironclad locked in. There's no human element of changing it. And so I think us being a community, it allows us for a lot more. Like, it's cool that we have so many matchups. Like I look at tennis. And it's like, Alcaraz got like 17th, and then he's just one and done. I think it's so cool. I mean, imagine Cody loses to Swift and he's out, and that's it. Like that misses the majority of what happened in the bracket. And so having double elim and having these, so many players open brackets is such a blessing. And I don't want us to get too unfortunate, and sad and discouraged and angry, because one thing stands out that seems not right when there's 99 that are just fine. And so I think it could have been done differently, but a lot of things have been done differently. I think we have to remind ourselves that, like, us finding one example of something bad does not mean that everything is bad. And I think the Cedars have done a great job. I want to do more research myself to kind of just, not even for necessarily accountability, more so curiosity. I want to see kind of like more of the details about what could happen. And it's like, hey, this is kind of like, look, I remember Kevin Maples, now Day Tripper, played J Mook like at 2 majors in a row in like this winner's like top 48. And I was like, that's annoying. Like, I guess if he really wanted to beat J Mook, then he got a second chance. But I would much rather him play, I don't know, not Junebug, because that's the region. Like, I don't know, like play a Fox Ditto, because he's played a lot against like Maelstrom and Nav and these other Foxes. Like I would want to see him play against like Soonsay or something. Like, I can, kind of cherry pick here and there, but like there's all these different things. It could be like someone as simple as like I don't know, like Lowercase Hero got a tough bracket, like, and it's like, oh, he had an immediate, like, 2 Falcons back to back. Like, you can cherry pick that. But at the end of the day, it's like, there's so many other things that went fine. Dial M had a tough bracket. Like, you could cherry pick these things. And at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot going great. And I think if you want to get involved, then you should start to, like, kind of do your own work about it and, like, present more of your findings in a more intelligent way instead of saying, this sucks, fix it. Like, help with the solving of the problems, not just pointing it out. And so I want to kind of open up a more like more discussion in a more casual, like, presentable way. I think Melee Stats, like, a lot of great people over there, but sometimes I think people are a little bit intimidated by like the intensity of it. And so I kind of want to use my platform here to kind of make it more approachable. So yeah, I'm kind of going off track a little bit, but just a few of my thoughts about being a seeder in TO and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, long live Melee.